Hello there everybody, welcome back to episode 3 of my tutorial series for Manor. So today it is trade and livestock which I have on my main topic lists. We are going to work through the trading post and the livestock trading post, and we are going to start pasturing some sheep and using that to fulfill the extra clothing desire our people have these days. Because at the end of the day, we will require now a couple of tier 2 houses more, but after that, we will require tier 3 houses. Speaking about which, I feel like we should totally take the opportunity and upgrade a few more houses. We have sighted a new bandit camp. That is excellent news. You might find that a little bit weird, but at the end of the day, those bandits are, for us, profit. Because we need now more money. We have pilfered quite some money from those bandits, so maybe the relationship is the other way around. Jokes aside, we go over to our trading post and we employ a family here, because without that, the trading post won't do much. We now head on over to this menu. This is where we configure our trades. This is where we tell the game what we want to import and what we want to export. We have here, for example, our first good that I'm going to put onto export. We don't need that many blanks for ourselves, so we're starting to export these. We'll only yield 2 coins, or whatever the currency here is, for 1 plank, but it is really okay. So here at the desired surplus, we now define how much of that good we want to keep for ourselves. When we hold down left shift while clicking, we can raise it by increments of 10, or, well, I don't know, is there any other? No, left shift is increments of 10. So we are working out with that. I'm lowering it down to, let's say, 30. That's what I want to have for myself. I'm not going to sell any stone because that is a non-regenerating resource. We have now a menu like this for pretty much every one of the goods. That means every overproduction of any kind in our village can be used for trade's sake. Currently, I am uneager to sell away any food as our village is constantly growing. That means our stockpiles here can be a false friend, as we might suddenly need to host a few people more and stuff doesn't last that long anymore. Therefore, I don't sell food and I won't sell firewood for the time being. In the crafting materials menu, we have a lot of things that are really well tradable, namely leather. As you see here, we have a heavy surplus of leather, but to trade leather, we will require a trade route. You see that there are minor trades and major trades. To fulfill major trades, we need to unlock the trade route. Every single painful one of them. So that means we cannot really do any trade with these items before we haven't paid an initial fee. We're going to trade a little bit of firewood, as firewood is always available for us, and it is a material where I can easily find that we are totally okay with the stockpile of 80 for the time being. Alright, now moving over to commodities. These are only major trades. There are no minor trades here whatsoever, and these are all pretty sophisticated goods which we are pretty far away from producing. But I just want to point out here that these all yield a really nice return per item. When you check out the crafting materials, here you also have pretty nice prices per part, but if it goes down to something raw like wool, it already goes down quite heavily. On the other side, exporting stuff like leather has a pretty nice reward. Basically, as a rule of thumb, if it has been refined at least once, the prices are quite nice and high, and if it's just a resource you can pluck out of the ground and sell for raw, the prices are quite low. Except for planks, as these are just too available, I suppose. What we are now first interested in are the military trades. So I need more gear for these guys. Military can be geared out with extra helmets, gambesons, and mail shirts, but these are optional things. they cannot work without a shield and a spear, and therefore these will be the first import routes that we're, or routes, is it routes or routes? Routes? I think it's routes. And these will be the first import routes that we're going to take. So here you establish it now. You pay an upfront investment, and now you can configure it. So we're configuring now to import these, and we are configuring to have a surplus of 5. Going downstairs here to the large shields and doing the same. We're importing these with a surplus of 5. Now what will happen is that the trader will now every time bring at least 5 of each if we can pay for them, and then they get deposited into a storehouse, or militia will pick it up, and the next time we will buy 5 more. I mean, we can also crank it up to this point. I think this is a pretty nice spot, and eventually we will start stockpiling them, and then we are going to be good with that. But having a stockpile of weapons for your militia is a good thing, because sometimes people die and then you need to restock the gear. For some reason the gear breaks when they die. It's just what it is. So before we do all these imports though, let's switch them off for a second. We're now heading over to the livestock trading post. Because we have only 204 coins left to spend, I want to establish the sheep pasture first. Sheep doesn't come for free. So every sheep has to be imported. Therefore, we're going to do that as the very first thing. So farming, you set up a pasture. We're going to go for that. Well, let's see. I think this is a nice spot. Here's the housing area already definitely gone, and we're setting up a nice little pasture here. Here, it's pretty clear. The larger the space, the more animals you can fit in there. Just mind you that you destroy all of the trees when you do that. So, therefore, select carefully where you place these. Now we got a pasture where we can put our sheep into, and now we move on over to the livestock trading post. For the time being, we're going to require a family working here as well, and we're going to go here for the trades. Here it is a lot simpler. We can just import, or wait a second, wasn't there a vowel? Yeah, we're going to import, and we're going to buy, for starters, 4 sheep. That'll be an investment of 120 coins, but, well, we do require them after all. So what'll happen next is that the trader will bring the sheep to the livestock trading post where we buy them, and you see here there's a pasture space of 4 and a stable space of 2 included in the livestock trading post. That means the 4 sheep that we bought will be staying inside there for the time being, and then we transport them over to the pasture. But one thing at a time. This whole thing ain't completed yet. We require now a sheep farm. So the sheep farm is basically the operational part of the pasture. So we're going to put it quite directly opposite to the pasture. There we go. So our city now has a baseline economy. Our trader, the family we put in there, is now going to pick up items and put them into the trading post. Everything that is inside the trading post when the trader arrives will be sold. I haven't fully figured out yet in what kind of rhythm the trader arrives, so I'm all ears to the comment section's wisdom here. Alright, so we're now going to have to wait for the imports, but you see here, the first sheep are moving in. And as far as I can see, yeah, they are already being brought to the pasture automatically. Brilliant. First time I did this, I haven't had a pasture yet, I haven't built it yet, and I had to move them manually. Alright, so we'll now have to wait for these traits to be fulfilled, and as a last note here, there's always a global market supply. This is something that you will influence over time. by either buying like a madman or selling like a madman. Either way, eventually, if you stay on the import on something for too long, the prices will increase, and same goes for the export. So either you trade smaller amounts or you turn off the trade for a while. Some way or another, you need to deal with these issues if they occur. Okay, so let's put the sheep farm on a high priority, and from this point on, we don't need to do that much more in terms of trading. It'll all happen in the background automatically. We're selling away some of the wood items that we got, and we're buying military goods back to stock up our militia. These guys will pick up the gear as soon as it is available in the storehouse. We just need to check back to the storehouse, and yes, everything's fine. Now, back to the hitching post. The hitching post can be upgraded to a small stable, which is something that we're going to do now, as this will give us the capability of hosting yet another ox. So having several oxen is a pretty good thing, as these guys are just speeding up your entire production chains. One ox is really not enough for your entire city. End of the line. You will need more than that. Okay, so the sheep farmers, they will just do their thing. They'll collect wool from the sheep for every now and then, and that wool on itself is sadly worth nothing. You, you need to come back to the industry tab, and we need a weaver's workshop now. The weaver's workshop luckily will be processing eventually the flax into linen as well, but we're pretty far away from that. Either way, I'm setting up the weaver's workshop right next to the sheep farm, so that industry is close together. So at this point, our little village has become pretty much well, it is on its best way to turn itself into a tiny city or town, because we have industries running, we have a income, we have imports, and as you see here, we are slowly also restocking the weaponry here. There we go. Eventually, when you have hit the total amount of sheep that you want to have, you can unemploy the livestock trading family, because these are only needed when there is a trade ongoing. Unlike the trading post family, these guys have to stay the entire year, because they will be the people that just keep buying and selling stuff constantly. Their job is much more demanding than the livestock traders. I mean, eventually you will reach the point where you can also start exporting your sheep, because they will just start multiplying and multiplying and multiplying. We can easily set up another pasture here and turn it into an industrial business, but you know, one thing at a time. We're now going to set the oxen also to import, as I want to have a second one. The small stable has been established, and I want to have another ox available in our city, as this will just speed up things enormously. So, there we go. So we have our first housing plot that is producing a approval loss. Let's see if this is only because of the renovations, or if because we really lack something. Alright, our settlement level has been increased once more. So the fuel stalled supply is not okay. So let's see, our firewood stalls are stocked up. I would assume that these guys just had a logistical hiccup due to the renovations. Maybe nobody in the house had found time to gather back firewood, and now they're pissed. Anyways, this is something that would lower your approval ratio if it would stay for a longer period of time. I don't think it will. So, let's see. Upgrade-wise, we have now several options. Recommendable options for me personal, beekeeping is amazing, as it leads into wax collecting, so you have an entire little industry string available just by selecting this tech. We're going to go forward, nevertheless, by going into the heavy plow tech. The heavy plow tech allows us to upgrade later our grain industry, but most importantly, it'll allow us to use oxen later for the agriculture. You can do it without, but it's a lot easier with the oxen included. All right, there we go. Let's see, these guys should pick up their fuel eventually. I really hope so. All right. At this point, by the way, I don't invest any wealth into my housing, because we're going to be attacked by the raiders in a year. This attack will be quite heavy. We won't be able to fight that back just with the militia alone, because we're going to be attacked by several stacks, 2 if I remember correctly. And yeah, that is just not really something that we can work with. So here, by the way, we had a work area is empty notification. That's the berries not yielding anything anymore. That's not a problem. We are entering now the springtime, so these deposits will regenerate, but eventually now we will have to find ways and means of earning food that are a little bit less just plucking things off of the field, namely agriculture. So, but the thing here is we will have to work first for other things. Let's see. Clothing supply will be dealt with once the sheep industry is kicking into gear, which is pretty good. And I really don't know why these guys are not able to fulfill their needs. It is there. They're just not picking it up. So sometimes these things are. So what's the most likely culprit here is that the distance between the marketplace and this plot is already a little bit high. But I think this will eventually flat out once we are working out here. So not enough funds for imports. That is okay. We are now going to stop importing the sheep. I just decided that this should be okay for us. All right. The Weaver's Workshop is established. And let's see, we have we already collected our first pieces of wool? No, not yet. So we don't need to employ anybody over here. I think it is absolutely okay to wait until the sheep toss off their first wool. In the winter time, you can't earn wool because it's forbidden to shear the sheep during the winter. I think this is a wise choice. And after all, now, what I make out of this is that we probably should stop exporting firewood. No, I think we are fine on that end. Okay, so we have all the things here established, but next up we will need to gather up clay and start doing farming, because we can only sustain ourselves so far by just what we're doing currently. So we're building some roads here and there. There's one to the clay pit. And I'm looping the road back to the King's Road. Never hurts. Okay. Now then. We're now setting up the clay mining pit over here, as we want to upgrade the church ASAP. The church upgrade is nice as it doesn't really come with bigger responsibilities. You just have to invest a chunk of stone, a chunk of clay shingles, and you're good to go. and it'll result in a direct approval increase. So what's not to like about that? Meanwhile, we are going to expand the living space on our burgage plots here to be sure that we have enough families available to work for us. But it is already noticeable that our food stockpiles have dwindled a little bit. This is because our hunters are also not able to pick up game as they want to, as I have here installed at the hunting camp a hunting limit. So take this seriously because you don't want to destroy your game node. It would be really, really unfun. I don't know if they regenerate though. Alright. So with the mining pit, we're going to set up a new industry building. Building, exactly. Ah, no, we can't yet because we ain't got clay. But, well. To store all these fine new commodities, we're going to go and upgrade this into a large storehouse as soon as our timber stockpiles allow us to. As you can see here, we're actually clearing quite a lot of the forest away here, and feel free to move your logging operations to a better spot. As a matter of fact, I will quite soonish move them a little bit more to the west, because, well, this allows us to let the city grow better around the marketplace, and at the same time, the reforestation attempts and everything are better off on that end of the city anyway, so. Since relocating is quite easily possible in this game, I don't mind at all. So this is a real weird notifier. We get this notifier, but, well. Okay, so if that happens to you, you can either demolish the building, but I would strongly recommend to do that only when you are sure that you have a room elsewhere, or you just ignore it. That's what I'm going to do. Because the fun part is, it doesn't even cost me approval. And I don't feel like the distance is so tremendously high. I don't know what their issue is, actually. So let's go for destruction of a little piece of road that was blocking me here, so we can eventually expand the marketplace. Okay. With the mining pit now in action, we're going to assign a family, and bandits stole our wool. Curse them. Our first wool, and the bandits took the wool. I'm out of words. So yeah, bandits steal stuff. It is really, really annoying, but it is what it is. So as you see here, we have now 2 oxen. These are only operatable if you also have 2 families available for the sake of oxen transport, but it'll allow you to permanently assign livestock to certain things. So the AI starts to claim another region. Don't do anything about that because it's just nothing that you need to worry about. The AI is trying to claim this area here, and that's just all that it is. We don't need to worry about more than that. So we just ignore that. Sadly, can't ignore it by pushing a button or something like that. But anyways, we don't want to interfere with these things. Alright. So we have now plenty of spears, and here, well, there is a little bit of an issue with the trading system. We are now going to stop importing spears for a moment until the shields have been re-imported. The game spends all the money from top to bottom, obviously, and I don't know, obviously no shields have been delivered so far. Whatever, it's going to be okay. So the next few steps for us are that we're going to go over to the import area and export area and save up some little amount of money. So a little trick to earn more money here is that we're going to save up a little bit of money until... Oh, this has become costly. Never mind. So yeah. We could have saved up some money to buy ourselves that trade route, but we are going to do that later. For the time being, we're going to wait until we have gathered a few more shields, and then we're going to bash those bandits. As the fun part here is, the bandits yield more money for us, and with that money we can raise more soldiers, and it's a wonderful mechanic. It's strengthening itself. Alright, so here goes the clay furnace and the storehouse. Well, I don't know where all our timber goes. Now we have 7. Eh. Yeah, give it an upgrade as soon as there is a piece of timber available in between. Alright. Didn't I configure that? I was so sure that I did. Alright, that explains a lot. For some reason, my construction reserve got eaten up. I don't know why. So, this is running as intended. And now every time this import will trigger, we'll get another soldier until we have hit 31. So our regiment will now be stronger than before. This is pretty much also almost enough to fend off the entire attack of that is incoming from the raiders, so you don't need to worry too much about that. There is also the option to raise mercenaries. These require treasury, though, treasury costs, and that's the money over here. So when we take down a bandit camp, we can also decide to put the money into the treasury. That can be then used for mercenaries. It's also an option how you can solve that issue. So with the storehouse upgrade, our capacity increases tenfold. So that's a pretty decent one. Also, the clay furnace is now the very first building that requires refueling. So this will increase our fuel needs. We need to take care of that. So let's see, what about our foragers? Well, at this point, as there is no construction event necessary right now, I'm going to put a second family into the forager's hut for the time being. It is still spring, and I want to pluck as many berries as we can before the time for that is over. Our food stockpiles are not looking too good, and I want to do something about that. At this point also, I'm not going to expand on living space any further, as we should be expanding now our productivity instead of just blindly expanding in terms of quantity. Alright, so the stonecutter camp, we could be moving it away, but I won't, because the stone deposit is so piddly small. We'll have to claim other regions then for new materials, or we decide to import these. But it would be a nice thing to capture the area down there. So let's see. We got a few soldiers back on track, and now we're going to do what we did the last time. Or where are the bandits? Bandits get cleared? I was so sure that there was another bandit camp. Either way, if you spot any bandit camps during this phase of the game, clear them and pick up the money. Even if a few people would be dying off of that, it wouldn't matter too much, as you just can buy new weapons out of that. And yeah, probably one of these another ruler's armies took down the bandit camp. So yup, somebody else took the treasure. So poor bandits, they're getting mugged more than they mug us. So, my good friends, that's the end of today's episode. In the next one, we're going to start tackling farming, and it'll happen up here. So, I'm looking forward to that. In the meantime, we're burning clay shingles, roof tiles they are, I'm sorry. And with those, we're going to upgrade the church, and yeah, looking forward to that. Leave me your comments down below, leave me a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and check out the description box. You will find the link to the entire playlist down below, among other neat little things. So, looking forward to see you guys again, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.